What is politics? 1. Introduction. The ubiquity and complexity of politics. Politics is a fundamental aspect of human society. It shapes how communities are organized, how power is distributed, how laws are made and enforced, and how conflicts are resolved. From the family unit to international institutions, political behavior underlies decisions about authority, resource allocation, values, and identity. But despite its ubiquity, the term politics is multifaceted, encompassing a range of definitions, disciplines, and perspectives. Politics can be seen as the art of governance, the science of power, the struggle for justice, or even the means of collective decision-making. It includes formal structures like governments and elections, as well as informal negotiations, movements, and social dynamics. To understand politics fully, one must consider its theoretical foundations, practical operations, historical evolution, and ethical implications. 2. Definitions of politics, a multidisciplinary perspective. 2.1 Classical definitions. Aristotle, 4th century BCE, defined politics as the highest form of human association, aimed at achieving the good life. In politics, he argued that humans are political animals, destined to live in a polis, city-state, and engage in deliberation over justice and virtue. Plato, his teacher, viewed politics as the pursuit of justice through the governance of the wise philosopher kings. 2.2 Modern definitions. Harold Lasswell, 1936, defined politics as who gets what, when, and how, emphasizing the distributive nature of power and resources. David Easton called politics the authoritative allocation of values, focusing on how political systems decide on collective goals and norms. Max Weber described politics as the striving to share or wield power, particularly within a state structure. 2.3 Broader interpretations. Politics is not limited to government offices or public debates. It includes identity politics, race, gender, sexuality, corporate and workplace politics, family and interpersonal dynamics, cultural politics, media, art, language. 3. Core concepts in political theory. 3.1 Power. Power is the ability to influence or control the behavior of others. It is central to all definitions of politics and can take various forms. Coercive power based on force or threat. Legitimate power based on legal or moral authority. Soft power based on persuasion and cultural influence. 3.2 Authority and legitimacy. Authority is recognized and accepted power, e.g., a judge, president, or parent. Legitimacy refers to the social belief that a political rule or ruler is rightful and just. 3.3 The state. The state is a sovereign political entity with the power to make and enforce laws within a defined territory. According to Weber, the state holds a monopoly on the legitimate use of physical force. 3.4 Sovereignty. Sovereignty is the absolute authority a state has over its territory and people. In a globalized world, however, national sovereignty is challenged by supranational organizations, multinational corporations, and global civil society. 3.5 Citizenship. Citizenship refers to the legal and political membership of a person in a state, encompassing rights e.g. to vote, speak, assemble, and duties e.g. taxes, laws, service. 4. Major approaches to the study of politics. The study of politics encompasses a variety of analytical frameworks, each with distinct methodologies, objectives, and philosophical underpinnings. These approaches reflect both normative ideals and empirical realities, offering insight into how power operates, how institutions function, and how values are contested and realized in political life. 4.1 Normative political theory. Normative political theory is concerned with evaluative and prescriptive questions. It asks what should be, rather than merely describing what is. It explores concepts such as justice, liberty, equality, rights, obligation, and legitimacy. Rooted in philosophy, this approach investigates the moral foundations of political arrangements and the ethical standards by which institutions and laws should be judged. Key thinkers include John Locke, who emphasized natural rights and the consent of the governed; Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who theorized about the general Will and the Social Contract. John Rawls, who developed a theory of justice based on fairness, and the Veil of Ignorance. Hannah Arendt, who explored totalitarianism, the public sphere, and the human condition. Normative theory provides the moral compass for political discourse, influencing constitutions, human rights frameworks, and debates about social justice. It does not rely on statistical analysis, but rather on reasoned argumentation and logical consistency. 4.2 Empirical Political Science. In contrast to normative theory, empirical political science investigates politics as it actually occurs. It is grounded in observable, measurable phenomena and seeks to develop generalizations or theories about political behavior, institutions, and systems. Key areas of empirical research include voting behavior and electoral systems, public policy analysis, institutional performance, political participation, and opinion formation. Empirical political scientists use methodologies such as surveys and polls, statistical modeling, field experiments, comparative case studies. This approach aims for scientific objectivity, allowing researchers to predict and explain political outcomes using data. For example, it might explore how economic inequality affects voter turnout, or how institutional design influences legislative efficiency. 4.3 Comparative Politics. Comparative politics focuses on the systematic study of political systems. Across different countries, it seeks to understand patterns of similarity and difference among various regimes, governments, and political cultures. Typical research topics include democracy versus authoritarianism, parliamentary versus presidential systems, electoral systems and party structures, constitutional design, and state building. For example, scholars might compare U.S. federalism with German federalism, or examine how different welfare states address inequality. Comparative politics bridges normative and empirical approaches by evaluating not only what works, but what should be emulated or avoided. Methodologically, it uses both qualitative case studies, interviews, and quantitative statistical comparisons techniques. 4.4 International Relations IR. International Relations IR explores the interactions between states, international organizations, non-governmental actors, and multinational corporations on the global stage. It examines issues such as war and peace, diplomacy, trade, security, and international law. Major theoretical traditions include realism, emphasizing power politics and national interest; liberalism, highlighting cooperation and international institutions; constructivism, focusing on norms, identities, and discourses. IR scholars analyze causes and consequences of war, e.g., world wars, conflicts in the Middle East, functioning of institutions like the UN, NATO, WTO, the rise of new powers, and global challenges like climate change and migration. IR blends history, economics, law, and political theory to understand how global order is shaped and reshaped. 4.5 Political Economy. Political economy examines the interplay between politics and economics, analyzing how political decisions influence economic policies and how economic conditions shape political behavior. Key areas of interest include capitalism and market regulation, welfare state development, globalization and inequality, development policy and economic reform. It bridges disciplines such as economics, sociology, and political science, often questioning who benefits from particular policies and why certain economic models dominate. For instance, political economy investigates how lobbying affects taxation or how international trade agreements impact national sovereignty. Variants include International Political Economy (IPE), which studies global finance, trade, and development; Marxist Political Economy, emphasizing class struggle and capitalist exploitation. In sum, these 5 approaches offer complementary lenses through which politics can be studied. While normative theory guides us toward ethical governance, empirical and comparative methods reveal how systems operate in practice. International relations extend the scope to the global arena, and political economy uncovers the material foundations of political power. Together, they form a comprehensive toolkit for understanding political life. in all its complexity.